Alright, so that driver is Oscar Piastri, as you can see in the thumbnail of the video, right? And disclaimer before this video starts, it's just an unscripted, it's just me rambling. I realize now that, especially in discourse over the internet, when you say somebody needs to improve, the first thing people jump to is that you think they're ass. You think they're not good. You think you're trying to shade them. I assure you I'm not trying to do any of that with Oscar Piastri. I think he's very, very good. However, allow me to explain my point. Oscar Piastri in year 3 simply needs to step up. He needs to do a lot more than he did this season, in my opinion. And the reason I think he needs to do that is because I've seen a lot of people, whether it be regular fans or even content creators, tout him as a guy that they think can win a world championship in the future. And based on what he's done in these first 2 seasons, I'd be lying if I say I also see it, but I also don't think it's impossible. However, for me to think it is possible, I need to see Piastri make a jump in 2025 that shows more progression. Allow me to explain my point. Like, we know that Piastri has 2 wins this year, and overall for a sophomore season of Formula 1, it's been pretty good. But if you look at the raw facts, if you look at the on-paper results, they paint somewhat of a different picture. He lost 16-8 in race head-to-head. He lost 20-4 in qualifying. Norris had 8 poles. Piastri had none. Yes, Piastri completed every lap of every Grand Prix this year, which in and of itself is a pretty... I don't know how I feel about that trait, you know. I don't know how I feel about that feat, because it is impressive, but at the same time, other drivers not being able to achieve it aren't necessarily because of mistakes. So it's kind of a hard stat to prop up, because for it to happen, for you to achieve it, it's more than just you driving properly. Things have to go in your favor. Your car has to not blow up. All of that stuff. So on paper, it's still a good stat to have, but it's not necessarily that much of an indicator of talent. He had 8 podiums in 2024. Again, that's what, a third of the season? That's 1/3 of the season. And when you factor in the fact that he's had arguably the fastest car over the course of a season, maybe just scoring a podium in 1/3 of the starts probably isn't the best look on paper. But again, here's the thing though, when you look at the first 10 races of 2024, Oscar Piastri had 1 podium compared to Norris, who had 6 plus a win in Miami. And even on top of that, top 5s, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He only had 5 top 5s in the first 10 races of the year. So things didn't necessarily start off that well for old Oscar. But if you keep going past Spain, that's where the podiums and the top 5 start to pick up. He gets top 5s all the way from Austria to USA. Austria's a race he actually could have won. He wasn't actually that far off. He won Hungary, but McLaren made it weird. But then he won Baku all on his own. But again, Norris had problems in quali. But again, we started to see the uptick in form from Piastri. And yes, things kind of fell off at the end. He only came 8th in Mexico, but that's because of quali. Came 8th in Sao Paulo. He didn't really have that much pace in Brazil, in the wet at least. And Abu Dhabi got taken out on lap 1. Vegas, McLaren itself weren't really that good. So as you can see, on paper, Piastri showed progression not just between 2023 and 2024, but in 2024 period. I don't remember the stat off the top of my head, but there was a period in which Piastri was one of the highest point scorers in the sport. And I think it's that 10 race stretch that I mentioned a while ago. But Piastri did show consistency. And all I'm saying is that moving forward, if Oscar Piastri is to be the future world champion that people on the internet tout him to be, it needs to reflect in his performance next year. I'm not saying he has to outright beat Norris or anything, but the head-to-heads and the quali stats need to be a lot closer. A guy that's going to be a future world champion cannot be losing 20-4 to any teammate in the sport, in my opinion. Right? It's just not going to work. Race head-to-head is another thing. he needs to be beating Norris on a semi-regular basis, which I think he's doing right now. Because as I just said, 8 to 16. He beat him a third of the races in the season. Again, not bad, especially when Norris was somewhat in a World Drivers' Championship fight. But again, more is needed. It needs to be a bit closer. We need to be seeing 12-12s if possible. Or even head-to-heads in your favor come 2025. Because I feel as though if we get another season of this from Piastri, I'm going to start believing he's peaked. You know, I'm going to start getting the feeling that Piastri has peaked and this is the best we're ever going to get from him. Which I think in and of itself would be a knee-jerk reaction because he's only 23. He has the rest of his 20s to get better. But the problem is when you look at Formula 1 and how quick everything is, how soon people are willing to throw guys to the curb for the next big thing, you almost can't afford to flatline at all, you know? You can't afford to flatline at all, and that's a shame. You know, drivers don't even get the time to develop. And I think if McLaren at some point become impatient with Piastri, which I don't personally see happening because they seem quite committed to him and Norris. I honestly think that the lineup itself is not bad. But when you look at McLaren this season, yes, they won the Constructors' Championship. But part of me feels like they could have won it by a bigger margin if the drivers had kind of locked in certain areas of the year. But it's just me rambling, man. I don't know. It's good, but also could be better. And I think that's the theme of this Piastri ramble. Piastri is good, but 2025 needs to show me that he's getting better. I need to see the quali head-to-head is the most eye-opening part for me because Norris has 8 poles this year, bro. Piastri had 0. Piastri still doesn't have a pole to his name yet. Like, that's crazy to me, personally. Piastri needs to get that first career pole. And I don't think it's impossible, you know, because Imola, he was quite close. There have been some instances where Piastri has been close. It's not like he's never even been close to pole. He just needs to get that one lap together and he'll get that monkey off of his back. But overall, just in overall performance, P4 in the championship in your sophomore season is very good. And I just want to see more from him, man. If McLaren build an outright rocket ship next year, Piastri, man, you can't be getting Barrichello'd. But then again, let's switch it over a bit, because am I expecting too much from Piastri to the point where it's making me underrate Norris? That's the next question I just thought of as I do this ramble. Am I expecting so much from Piastri rather that I'm underrating Norris? Because Norris been in the sport since 2019. We're in 2024 now. That's how many years? 6, 7? It's been here for almost 10 years now. Doesn't feel like it, but we're nearing on 10 years of Lando Norris in F1. And I think that this season we're finally seeing Norris at that level that everyone said he could perform at. They used to call him no wins. He finally won a race and then he won 3 more for good measure. Norris has proven on occasions this year that as long as he has the fastest outright car, he can get the job done. It's just when the car is closer to somebody else that it's kind of woozy. But that's what I need to see from Piastri. And he showed me glimpses of it by winning in Hungary and Baku. But I just want to see more. Those first 10 races of the year were very telling for me. I thought Piastri should have done a lot better in the beginning of this season. And I think had he done that, he would have been maybe not P3 in the championship. I think he would have still finished P4, but he'd have just done a lot better. He'd have scored a lot more points. Because the reality is he only beat Sainz by 2 points this year, and this is a Carlos Sainz that crashed out of 3 races and didn't race in Jeddah. So if Sainz had a working appendix, he would have beaten Piastri in the standings this year, which I don't think is a good look personally, because yes, the Ferrari was very good, but I do think the McLaren was better. Yeah, I think it had higher highs. I think that's a fair thing to say. Don't expect everything in this video to be accurate, man. It's just me rambling. It's just me trying to take advantage of this insane intern talks wheel run I've been on these past 3 races. But yeah, more is needed from Piastri. And I don't think it should be considered me hating him to ask for that. And I think he's absolutely capable of delivering it, yeah? Piastri is good. He has great peaks. But I just want to see him perform better on a better basis. That run I was talking about, that Austria to Kota run, I need more of that, man. That's what I need to see from him. Because that Austria Kota run, what he did in that run is what Leclerc has literally done all season. And that's why Leclerc did as good as he did this year. Leclerc, best driver of 2024, you could argue it. I think it's an absolutely arguable fact that Charles Leclerc not only had the best season of his career this year, but easily the best driver of 2024. You could argue it quite easily. If you think it's Max, fair enough. I would think it's Lando. Easily one of the best, but not the best. But it's easily between Max and Leclerc. I was even going to throw in Hulkenberg in there, you know, but he honked in Brazil and Qatar, I fear. But we move. I think I can end it here. I think y'all get the gist of what I'm trying to say. Piastri needs to step up. He needs to show in year 3 that he's a driver that has learned from year 1 and year 2 and can perform on a consistent basis. I'm not saying he needs to beat Norris. I'm not saying he needs to out-qualify Norris. He just needs to perform at a level that shows he is closer to Norris next year than he was this year. I think if he were to give us another season of what he's done this year, it's not gonna be a good look, and it's gonna give me the impression that he's already peaked, and I don't think Piastri has already peaked. So yeah, Piastri, you need to step up, bro. End of discussion.